Call to order the regular meeting of the June Finance Committee. Let the minutes reflect all four board members are here, as well as the other four members of the city council and the mayor. So we are all here today. Welcome to everybody. Just as a matter of record, we will not be meeting in the month of July, nor will the committee or will the council meet as a whole. So we've got a very full agenda today because we're trying to get some things done before we have that break. Hang on a minute.
4:31 p.m.
Please announce that the city, it keeps, did y'all hear that?
Stina.
Oh. It's voices up here. Please announce the city council meeting to include adopting the 2022-23 budget will be on Tuesday, June 21st. That's next week. The council will not meet on Monday because the city is closed because of the Juneteenth holiday. So the full council will meet on, our normal meeting will be on Tuesday, the 21st, at which time we will take the budget for the coming year. With that, we will go in the usual matter and take the consent items first. I have C4. Are there any other items anyone would want pulled? Ms. Scipio?
I have just a few questions on several of them.
Go ahead and give me the numbers.
C5, C10, C21, 23.
Wait a minute, you're going too fast. C5, 10.
21, 23, 24, and 29. Just a couple.
I'm sorry I called on you now. I got C2.
Just a simple question.
You're not even on the committee. I'm doing you a favor. Any over here?
Isn't that why we got these on Thursday?
No, I move for approval of the balance.
We have a motion to approve the balance. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, committee members, when they come up. We vote electronically now, so you'll see the vote. That is approved. We will now go in numerical order. If the clerk will please read C2.
Item C2, consideration of items related to the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget ordinances.
I asked for this one to be pulled. Scott, I'm looking at the one, and I may have to call on Miss Saunders, who is still there. Miss Saunders, Ramco question? Is that you? I was somewhat surprised to read it in here. It says the 30-year operating memorandum between the city and Ramco has expired.
Good evening, Councilmember
Yes.
Clark, Chairman Clark, Mayor Jones, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and members of City Council. So the original operating agreement with Risk Acceptance Management Corporation was a 30-year agreement with annual renewals. So that agreement actually expired in 2018.
But we do have annual renewals.
We had annual renewals, and council would renew it on an annual basis. And as you know, Ramco Board determined it was feasible to dissolve the corporation as of January of
Yes.
2022. So this budget amendment is just putting the annual operating expenses and revenues on the city's actual financial statements
Okay.
for the audit for the end of
Thank
the
you.
year.
But Ramco is still functioning.
No, Ramco is dissolved.
A committee
And it
is
has been put on the city's books as a self-insurance fund.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That's all. I'll move approval of C2.
Second.
Have a motion approved to C2. If we could vote on that, please. Body, please vote. Thank you. That is approved. C4, Mr. Monday, you wanted this one. The city clerk, please read it.
Item C4, resolution authorizing the acceptance of the donation of property on Jonestown Road from the Jack Eugene Hauser heirs and the granting of a conservation easement to the Piedmont Land Conservancy.
Mr. Monday? you have-
This is a good news, and I want to say thank you to the Hauser family and just plant the seed with anyone else who has land that they would like for us to use. We could come up with a good way like Mr. Royston has, and just a brief overview of what we plan to do with this donated land, if you would, please.
Sure. Good afternoon, Chair, Mayor Pro Tem Adams,
members of the committee. After we receive this property, it will be our goals to adhere to the family's wishes and not develop it for active recreational uses. The primary uses will be for passive recreation. There is a large barn, really large, but really nice barn on the property that we could possibly use as a wedding venue or an additional wedding venue to the ones that we have located downtown. There are some nice walking trails. There's some other historic buildings on the site. We plan to provide some educational signage and just maintain the property as active, passive recreational space.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion from one of the committee members to?
Move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Mundy, did you get all your questions answered?
I did, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion second to approve C4. If everybody please vote. Thank you. That is approved. We will now go to C5.
Item
City Clerk,
C5.
please read it.
Item C5, resolution authorizing acquisition of fee simple and temporary construction easements by deed or condemnation for the Cloverdale Avenue pedestrian improvement project.
Before we start, Mr. King, if you could take your mask off, I had a hard time understanding Mr. Roy. So while you're, anyone up at the mic, you're okay. I'll give you permission.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mississippi.
I just had two questions. I wanted to know what the improvements were going to be, and I was a little concerned exactly where it was. Seems like it's along the side of Cloverdale where Walgreens is and Cagney's and the shopping center, and I want to know if that was correct.
Yep, so that's right. Good afternoon, Chair Clark, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, Mayor Joines, council members. So this is, you may remember a while ago, the city did a project for pedestrian improvements at Cloverdale Avenue, and so this is the next phase of that. This is for sidewalk on that north section that you just referenced there. We've already done plenty of work there, and this is kind of the next remaining phase is to install sidewalk on that north side. So this would be the Cloverdale Shopping Center frontage, the Cagney's frontage, and the Walgreens frontage. And this is $163,000 to acquire those easements needed for that construction.
Thank you.
Okay, can I get a committee member to approve C? Make
Move
a
for
motion on
approval.
C5.
Second.
Motion second to approve C5. If everybody please vote when it comes up. That is approved. Thank y'all very much. We will now go to C10. If the city clerk will please read that one.
Item C10, resolution awarding contract for an enterprise management system with Achieve It Online LLC.
Okay, Ms. Scipio.
Thank you. This, if I'm correct, this is some software that actually uses the cloud. It's cloud-based security, and I wanted to know how comfortable are we with protecting us from hacking from both our side and from the provider side?
Good afternoon, Chair Clark, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, Mayor Joines, members of the committee and council. We're working closely with IS on this project to ensure, like all of our systems, they're as secure as possible. We are excited about the cloud-based position so that staff are able to utilize their iPads better for entering information into the system for the various tasks that we're going to have it for.
That's it. That was it.
Okay, thank you. No further questions. Can I get a motion on C10?
Move for approval.
Second.
All in favor, please vote or vote accordingly. That is approved. We will now go to, excuse me, to C21. If the clerk will please read that one.
Item C21, resolution to enter into an agreement with Walter Robbs, Callahan, and Pierce Architects, PA, for professional architectural services for design for Truist Stadium MLB updates.
I'm going to have Mr. Rao introduce this and let everybody know what's going on here.
Good afternoon, Chairman Clark, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, members of the City Council. This project is born out of the contraction, really, that Major League Baseball imposed on minor league baseball some months ago. Those franchises, unfortunately, the Winston-Salem Dash is one of them that survived that contraction, are now required to upgrade their facilities to meet new Major League Baseball standards. We've had an initial assessment done of the stadium, and you teams receive penalty points, and they have to work those down to a certain level. We have a penalty points of 115. We have to get those points down to about 30 by opening day of 2023. So this project is intended to address those needs. A lot of this is driven by improvements we need to make to the visiting clubhouse. So what we have here is we went through a process to retain an architect to do this work, went through an RFQ process, and we now have scored and are recommending Walter Robs, Callahan, and Pierce as the architect for this project. So that's the item before council today. Now, the team had requested some additional improvements since we are in the process of doing work on the stadium, and we will have a contractor doing work, and that is to build some administrative offices on site. Their current offices will be displaced by a future development project, and they're looking to have those built and coincide with this project. And what we are working through, that is city staff, is an agreement of some kind where they would amortize that cost over a certain period of time. That would be a cost that the team would bear. It would not be a cost that would be part of the MLB upgrade package. So what's before you today, though, is a contract with Walter Robs to do the MLB upgrades. Once we work through the agreement and we know what the additional fee will be to do the administrative offices, then we'll come back to you with an action item to approve the agreement so that we know that the team will be paying for the administrative offices, and then also to do a change order to the design contract.
And we do have money in the capital budget for the coming budget year for the...
Yes, sir. This
actual
project
work.
is part of the $55 million LOPS package that you all will be considering as part of the 22-23 budget.
Okay, thank you. Hang on a minute. This is actually Ms. Scipio, so let me let her go first. Ms. Scipio, you had a question.
Thank you.
I'll get everybody.
Mr. Rao, this is just technical stuff. On Exhibit A, where it says project bid description, it says Bowman Gray Stadium. I believe that should be corrected to say Truist Stadium.
That is correct.
That was my
Thank you.
concern.
We'll get that corrected. Okay, now, Ms. Adams.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Rao, and all of your staff, and the Dash, and even the Major League Baseball organization. Our stadium, whether people realize it or not, is starting to get a little age on it. And also because we were fortunate enough, at least that's what we think, that we were not under the axe when they began to cut a lot of teams out of small towns and cities across the country. But we also recognize that the upgrades to the ballpark are much needed. Like, I knew they didn't have an office there when it was built, but I thought, well, maybe this is how they're building them now. But I think it's appropriate for us, since it is our real estate, that irregardless that we bring it up to, we don't have a choice, basically, in some regards. We either comply, as the CARF says, or we are penalized. So I support this. I also really support the fact that they're looking at the spaces that the players have to engage in when they're doing their job and providing entertainment for all of us, that we realize that the dressing rooms, the locker rooms, the bathrooms and things were not up to par either. One of the things that I'm really, really proud of and glad, finally, that they will have bathrooms for males and females and others in our ballpark versus just the usual bathroom situations we've had for decades. So again, thank you. Thank you, Chairman Clark.
Let me just, there are bathrooms for everyone on the general public. These are the bathrooms.
For the players and the
players.
organization,
Okay,
because they do have women that work for them now.
yeah.
To follow on to Mayor Pro Tem's statement, I believe Major League cut 30% of the minor league ball clubs this last round of contraction, so that was a pretty big bullet to dodge. It's kind of amazing how a state-of-the-art stadium like ours needs that much improvement in the short period of time, but I guess it hasn't really been that short, so I'm all in favor of it. When we come to an agreement with them on building out offices, I'm viewing that as a real estate deal. They'll be paying us for it over some period of amortization. Will we be able to use revenue bonds?
Well, I think that Ms. Saunders and Ms. Latham and I and Ms. Carmen will be getting together to kind of work through the details of the agreement. Well, one possibility would be that because they'll be providing a new revenue stream,
Right.
we could potentially increase the amount of the lobs to accommodate that additional cost. So that way, the $55 million that you all are allocating is preserved, and none of that is going towards, a team request like this.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Can I get a motion from a committee member on this?
Move for approval, Chair.
Second.
We have a motion second on C21. If everybody please vote when it comes up. Okay, that is approved. We'll now go to the next one, C23.
Item C23, resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a supplemental agreement with the North Carolina Department of Transportation for the maintenance of landscaping related to the TIP project U2827B.
Ms. Scipio, let's wait for Ms.
Mr.
McCullough to come up. Okay, Ms. Scipio, if you got a question or comment.
Yes. Hi, Ms. Tonique McCullough.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good.
In this CARF, it says that this is the third amendment to this project, and it says that landscaping by the city is to begin 2 years after completion of the plantings. And the landscaping is to be designed and installed by NCDOT without any additional cost to the city. Because I know we've working with NCDOT on our Martin Luther King Creative Corridors project that's been 10 years in the making. Do we have any idea when this will take place?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Chairman Clark, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and members of City Council. I hope you can hear me. Okay. Yes, so this is the third agreement that we have with NCDOT. The first two agreements were related to the improvements that were made on Business 40, or Salem Parkway, as it is now called. And those agreements were related to funding transfers that were made for the items that they installed that we had to reimburse them for. This situation for the landscaping, NCDOT is actually installing all of the landscaping with intentions to begin that work very soon and be completed within the next year or so. And so then our maintenance will not, well, it may take longer because depending on seasonal installation of items, but because they need to spend those funds that were already allocated to the project, they'll need to start soon. And I can get you an exact date after this meeting. But yeah, our maintenance will not begin until 2 years after it's been installed because of warranties that they will have on the work that's being completed.
But right now, they're starting the landscaping.
They should be starting soon.
So we
yes,
might be
ma'am.
looking 2 years out for the maintenance that we'll have.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? If not, if I get a motion from the committee.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second, approve C23. If everybody please vote when it comes up. Okay, we'll now go to C24. The secretary, will the clerk please read that one?
Item C24, resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with GMV Synchromatics for real-time passenger information for Winston-Salem Transit Authority's fixed route buses.
Okay, Ms. McCullough, you can just stay right there.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Scipio.
My question, and I was a little confused, is the $500,000 a 5-year contract?
So the total of $550,000 includes the installation cost, which is the initial installation cost, plus the first year of maintenance. And then there are additional annual maintenance costs over the 5-year period of $59,031 for warranties and $13,635 for annual maintenance. And each of those will be broken down per year and paid out of the regular operations annually.
But the 550 is just the initial
The
installation
initial
cost.
installation for materials and installation.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
Move for approval.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Everybody please vote when it comes up. And the last item. Oh, hang on a minute.
29.
It's C29, if the clerk would please read that one.
Item C29, consideration of items relating to the hospital-based violence intervention grant.
Okay, Ms. Scipio.
I just need an explanation of that particular project. I just didn't remember having
Ms. Tony's not
discussed
here, so
about
Ms.
that.
Garrity, you batting on this one?
Good evening, Chairman Clark, Vice Chair, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, Mayor Joines, and members of City Council. And Ms. Tony is out of town at leadership training. This is a $500,000 earmark that we got from state. Representative Lambeth saw a program that was very effective at Duke Hospital that involved social workers at the hospital directly working with patients who came in who were victims of violent crime, working to intervene there to try to find alternative things for them to redirect, as opposed to retaliation or things that often happen. So this was earmarked in the state budget. It's ARPA money, federal money, but it was earmarked in the state budget specifically for this program. Ms. Tony's been working with Atrium and the state to get this organized. They're going to start. We are just the pass through, but they intend to start this program in July, so they can begin working with, unfortunately, all too many victims that we're seeing showing up at the hospital, or we're transporting to the hospital with primarily gunshot wounds.
Thank you very much.
Monday.
Is this exclusive to Atrium?
Yes, that was the way it was directed.
Thank you.
Okay, no other questions? If I can get a motion on this.
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on C29. All right. Thank you very much. That concludes the consent agenda. We will now go to the agenda, and there are 8 items, and we will begin with G1. If the city clerk will please read this one.
Item G1, presentation on Agile City and Venture Winston Grants Program.
A year or so ago, one of our companies in town redirected their economic development money that they had earned to a new project, and I just wanted to get an update for the committee on it. And Ms. Barnes, if you'll give your name and address for the record, and you've got 5 minutes, and I know you've got a guest with you. If you'll give your name
Absolutely.
and address as well.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, Chair Clark, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. First of all, it's really nice to see everybody out and about, so that's wonderful. Thank you for inviting us here to speak about the success and the ongoing impact of the Venture Winston grants. This is Demaria Simmons. He is the founder of Southern Drone Company. I'm going to ask him to speak here in just a moment, too. So just a very brief review of where we've been and the role in the city. I did provide you with some background materials, so I'm not going to go into this.
We were distributed.
Perfect. So about 2018, I noticed there was no economic development strategy to recruit startups to Winston-Salem, despite our growing and successful entrepreneurial ecosystem. I designed a future-focused program, wrote a white paper, did a lot of research, had conversations with many of you all. I presented a bold plan that I called 30 by 25. It was a way to spend like $30 million, and how do we really accelerate our ecosystem by 2025? Part of that plan turned into the Venture Winston grants, which is how do we attract, support, and retain the next 100 successful startups in the city of Winston-Salem. As Chairman Clark mentioned, there was economic development incentive money that was reallocated. We have now launched the program last year in 2021. The results of our recruitment efforts you can see in your package. And our first cohort came to Winston-Salem in this January. We have 4 local companies that we are supporting and 5 who have relocated to Winston-Salem. So I want to give you an update on the progress in just the first 90 days of the cohort, okay? 90 days. Since then, they have hired 7 new employees. They have started pilot production, identified FDA regulatory pathways and insurance value, started new clinical partnerships, designed new products, set up new e-commerce capabilities. They have signed licensing agreements, entered new markets, opened a new region, performed customer discovery on potential new offerings, applied for a National Science Foundation SBIR grant. This is my personal favorite. Published a joint research paper with NASA, right? Signed a crowdfunding platform, increased their monthly revenue 30%, and won investment from the Whisper Fund. These are incredible results for the first 90 days, and we expect even more over the next 9 months. Our point is this: entrepreneurship is important. It's vital for economic development. And the Venture Winston grants, thanks to your generosity and understanding and support of the program, is attracting and supporting more startups than any other local program. And now I'd like to hear firsthand from Demarius Simmons about his experience in the program and the future of his company in Winston-Salem.
Good afternoon, Chair Clark, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, Mayor, and City Council members. Since relocating here, part of the Agile City Winston Grants Program, Southern Drone's been positioned to not only establish a footprint here, but also to grow and build rapport with local companies. Just in these 90 days alone, with some of the resources, mentorship that we've been provided, we were able to become the first company to autonomously use machine learning and AI to autonomously count containerized crops. No other business or corporation is doing this inside the United States. We've also developed an entry-level program for search and rescue operations. Next week, we're going to participate in the NIST grant program to aid first responders, law enforcement with search and rescue operations using the same technology that we've developed through autonomous plant counts. This has also led to momentum into other programs as well and other opportunities, and also key relationships with local companies like Takeoff Monkey. It's just been a phenomenal opportunity. It would not have been able to achieve any of this without the backing of Agile City and the team and the support network that they have allowed us to do. And it's literally changing lives. And since I've been here, I'm already actively looking to relocate if not a big portion of Southern Drone here to establish a footprint, because we just see the unique dynamics here in Winston-Salem and the appropriateness for our business model, and also as far as building rapport and just continuing to grow our footprint here.
Thanks, sir. Where did you move from?
Douglasville, Georgia, sir.
Is that near Atlanta?
It's 30 minutes west of Atlanta.
Okay, I think everything's near Atlanta anyway. Yeah, I've heard of it.
Pretty much.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Ms. Barnes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now go to G2, if the city clerk will read that one.
Item G2, resolution awarding contract for resurfacing city streets to APAC Atlantic, Inc., Thompson Arthur Division.
Mr. Huff, you want to give us 2 minutes on this?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, Mayor Joins, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, members of the City Council. Yes, this item is a consideration for award of a contract to APAC Atlantic for our annual resurfacing efforts. As you're aware, the scope of work is basically to mill, perform structure adjustments, resurface, and then stripe those suggested streets you have on Attachment A. This item was bid by purchasing on May 18th. We did not receive the requisite 3 bidders on that, so it went out for re-advertisement. We got 2 bidders show up at the second round, and APAC Atlantic was the low bidder at $7,595,587.65. Obviously, this is higher than what we anticipated due to the increasing fuel prices across the country. So basically, the agenda is to recoup the difference with next year's POW bill allocation and LOBS funding that the council would render judgment on at next week's CIP and budget approval process. So happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Huff, on a apples-to-apples comparison per square foot, however you do asphalt, how would you compare the cost this year to, say, a year or two ago?
This is astronomically higher than anything we've ever seen. As you're aware, asphalt is oil and rock, and with the oil prices we've seen, it's never been higher than where we speak right now.
Thank you. Ms. Adams?
Yes, Mr. Huff, do you foresee possibly that because of the economy and inflation and supplier issues, do you see that we'll probably be coming back when we issue a vote on these contracts, that we'll be doing budget amendments for these contracts because the cost may go higher from the time we vote on it until a month from now, that it's
Excellent question, Mayor Pro Tem Adams. This contract does have an asphalt modifier, so should the cost of asphalt increase, there does the contract. So absolutely, ma'am, that is a possibility.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Mundy?
So at this point, none of the streets that had been selected in advance, we haven't cut back on any of those. We're paying the difference. Is that correct?
Correct. This would be all of the streets that you have in your attachment A currently.
Okay, thank you.
Is it Mr. McIntosh?
So I know I'm going to get calls when I have neighborhoods that feel like their roads need to be done that are not on this list. When's the next bite of the apple? When will we see another list? I know we're just getting this
It's
one.
the Golden Gate Bridge, sir. As
Yeah,
soon as you finish
right.
one, you're already starting on the
Being a
next.
battleship. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Scipio?
Thank you so much for this wonderful list. Just a little typo on the East Ward where it says Dublin Drive. It's East 12th Street and not West 12th Street.
I'm sorry, ma'am. What was that correction again?
Dublin Drive, the very first East Ward Street.
Yes, ma'am.
It's East 12th Street and not West 12th Street.
Roger that. We'll handle it.
Thank you. And my other question is, I believe our street paving is allocated by ward equally. Is that right?
Correct.
The ones. Therefore, do we know how many streets are in each ward?
We do have an inventory of all of our streets that are on the POW bill map, so we do know which streets are in which ward, yes.
I would like to know how many streets are in the East Ward versus all the other streets. Because if we're allocating pavement equally across the wards, it might be that some wards will never get their streets paved because they have more streets.
Councilmember Scipio, let me throw in on that for a minute. Before we send Keith and his team doing an Easter egg hunt on this thing, it's kind of like Keith said, we know this is a priority. We got a ton of these things that we need to repave. None of y'all are getting ahead of the other ones. I can promise you that. So there's going to be plenty of streets out there that need to be resurfaced regardless.
But I still would like to know if it's equal, if it's equitable, particularly after we redistrict, because I know wards are getting collapsed and some are getting larger.
So Councilmember Scipio, we can dig in on that, but again, a street's not a street, right? We've got different linear footages on there. So I don't know that we're going to be able to get you an apples to apples on that. That's a request that takes a lot of time is the reason you see me up here.
It can be later, but I think it's something we need to address to make sure we're having equitable street pavement since we split the cost equally across wards.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Adams?
Mr. Huff, Mr. King, Councilmember Taylor, Councilmember Clark, we've been here, he's been here 20, we've been here 13, the mayor's been here 20. We understand the task that you have every year trying to get streets paved. We understand that citizens, everybody feels like if I've been living on my street for 20 years and it's never been paved, but yet it's in good conditions because we go by the metrics that the general statute and the Department of Transportation gives us. We also know that the concrete and the resurfacing is done in linear miles. It's not calculated by how many streets there are in a ward. The only reason that we dispense the money, the bucket, by wards is when Councilmember Taylor and Montgomery and I came on, we figured, just like with the bond, that if we are allowed to govern the same equal amount of people, we did it by people, then we should have the same amount of allocated funds that everybody should have. And not one ward should have more than the other. So, for me, I know how this goes. I think a few of us do. I know you guys are doing the best that you can, and I thank you. I know you are very short-handed, and I know that we are chasing a lot of projects without staff. So, I'm going to tell you, like you've heard me say, go do your job, okay? Do your job.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Keith. I agree with Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you for the hard work there. And we've got, I think, about 1,000 miles of roadway streets in the city of Winston-Salem. So there's plenty of work to be done there. And as everybody knows, this comes up as the number one issue and priority for the citizens of this city want us to do. So I know it's higher than we anticipated, but I agree. We've got to keep putting the asphalt out while we can.
Sir.
Thank you, Keith.
Yes, sir.
If I could get a motion from a...
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, to approve G2 on the agenda. If the body please vote when that comes up. Thank y'all very much. We will now go to item G3. If the clerk will please read this one.
Item G3, resolution approving a fourth amendment to the city-county interlocal cooperation agreement to establish the roles for the city of Winston-Salem and Forsyth County regarding the purchase and implementation of a new public safety radio communication system.
Mr. Rao, why don't you give us 2 minutes on this one, please?
Yes, sir. Chairman Clark, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, members of the City Council. Back in 2000, the voters in Winston-Salem approved a bond referendum that included the replacement of a public safety radio communication system. Here we are 20 years later, and that system is at the end of its useful life. We're experiencing issues with getting parts, and the manufacturer no longer supports the system, and so the city and the county embarked on a project to replace the system. The estimated cost at the time was $18 million. So in the 2018 city bond referendum, the $122 million that voters approved, it included $9 million for the city share of the system. Since that time, the city-county interagency communications department has guided a process, number one, first to secure a consultant to design the new system and also to help identify what kind of improvements we want to make to the system. We used mission-critical partners to do that. And then once we had the design in place, the specifications went through an RFP process to actually retain the manufacturer of the system. And after going through that process, the panel, the staff panel, unanimously recommended awarding a contract to Motorola Solutions, which is the current manufacturer of our system. This system is going to basically replace the brains of the system. We're not constructing any additional towers. And it also will include the replacement of subscriber units, which would be like our radios, that type of equipment. And then finally, it will also include a new fire station alerting system. The total cost of the project will be just a little over $18 million. And there is a table in the council action that does show the breakdown between the city and the county. The city's cost will be about $8.6 million, so a little bit under the city's budget, and that represents about 47% of the total cost. The county's portion will be about $9.5 million, or 53%. The staff recommends that we retain the amount that we are under budget, just so we have it as contingency in case unforeseen needs come up over the course of the project. The item before you today is a resolution approving a fourth amendment to the interlocal cooperation agreement that the city and the county executed over the years, first supporting the 2000 system and now for this new system. So it establishes the cost sharing and how and what the responsibilities will be between the city and the county. The city-county interagency communications department will lead this project, and I'd like to recognize Damon Sanders Pratt, Deputy County Manager, and Pete Wright, who's a member of the Interagency Communications Department. They're here to answer any technical questions that you may have about the system, because I'm not the one to do that. So be happy to answer any other questions.
Ms. Adams?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Rao. Technical questions, what good is it? We've been discussing this for a few months now, and I think some of them, including myself, have resolved that times have changed, and we got to comply with the feds and the state, and that's a good thing. You answered my question about the contingency fund, the money that we've allocated, that we're below what we voted for in the bond. Do you think that over the years that we need to basically always have a contingency fund, since this is basically a collaboration of partnership? Because things do go wrong and things do break, and we found that out over the years too. So what do you think about that?
Well, I definitely think retaining this balance would be worthwhile. I mean, it will not go away, as long as the project is still active, even when the project's completed, those funds will still be available. They're capital funds. And so if we need to replace subscriber units, that could be a possible, source of funding, or new subscriber units. So I think that holding on to those funds for the foreseeable future would be our recommendation.
Mr. Rao, I mean, the technology here is pretty complex. I feel fairly good about the technology arena, but it goes down a rabbit hole really quick. So how many years will it be before we're back here again looking at replacing this technology with the next one? And to just second part of that question, should we be thinking about not just some maintenance reserves, but also building up a capital reserve to address that next time?
So I'm going to recognize either Damon or Mr. Wright to respond to that question.
If you guys will give your name and address for the record, please.
Damon Sanders Pratt, Deputy County Manager, 201 North Chestnut Street. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Chairman. We've gotten about 20 years out of the current system. Now, technology is moving faster than it ever has, but we've managed to acquire parts to keep the current system moving beyond its useful life from other communities that have used similar systems. So they've moved on, and we're just now moving on, basically using surplus parts from another community. So we'd hope to get at least 20 years out of this one, but technology moves very fast.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Pete Wright, 201 North Chestnut Street. I'm the recently retired Interagency Communications Manager for the city and the county. And to answer the question of when will we do this again, there's no real answer to that. The easiest way to say it is, when will someone come out with a new cell phone? They do that every year. Fortunately, this is a technology that's based on a new platform. You've heard the buzzword P25. P25 is a set of standards that allows an open playing field for all manufacturers. Therefore, everyone can bring their equipment into this arena. Now, I'm sure over the next few years, there will be improvements or enhancements to the basic P25 specifications. But no one at this point, none of the manufacturers I've spoken with, see an end of life to this. Basically, at this point, there can be changes, but no one is predicting an end of life. Not like the system that we presently have.
Thank you.
Thank
That
you,
was
sir.
helpful.
Thank you, gentlemen. Oh, excuse me. Y'all don't go away. Ms. Scipio.
This is such a wonderful way that our city and county work together, and I'm excited about this. What's the timetable for procuring the equipment, installing it, and getting it operational?
So the process, we hope to begin in July if we move according to the current schedule. So it will be approved, signed, and executed, and it's an 18-month project, so it would end in December of 2023. We should have beneficial use at that point and acceptance.
2023.
In December.
Thank you.
Any other, Mr. Taylor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Wright, Mr. Sanders Pratt, I just want to thank you for being here today. Excuse my mask. We appreciate the ability to be able to partner with you, the county, on this project. We're looking forward to many more collaborations, and we just appreciate everything. With that being said, Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of item G3.
Do I have a motion to second on G3? Y'all have a seat now, or you may stay and listen or leave. Everybody, please vote. All right, thank you very much. We will now go to G4. If the city clerk will please read this one.
Item G4, resolution awarding contract for security officer services at City Hall and Bryce E. Stewart to North State Security Group.
Mr. Taylor, if you could introduce this to us, please.
Good evening, Chairman Clark, Mayor Jones, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, other members of the committee and council. The item that you have before you is for a resolution to award the contract for security officer services at both City Hall and Bryce E. Stewart. Correct that. So this actually went out on the street March of this year. After we sent it out, it went out to approximately 40 different companies, of which we had 2 to respond. One was considered non-responsive. Therefore, we are recommending that the contract be awarded to North State Security Group. And this will cover a variety of things as far as helping to maintain order. And this also includes labor for metal detection.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments? Ms. Adams?
You knew I was going to raise my hand, right? Mr. Taylor, thank you again, and all of the staff again for everything when you guys are going out to investigate any new initiatives that this council wants to seek. I applaud you. You know how I have been uncomfortable about the protection of not just the council like some people think, but the protection of our employees, staff, and people, citizens visiting government buildings. I think it's time, just like our telecommunications and things that we're partnering with the county, public safety, I think it's time that we upped our game. What I wanted to ask you is, I see that we again contracted the security services, but this is meant for Councilmember Taylor, Chair of Public Safety, and Chief Thompson and the city manager. Have we thought about, and I know this is off script, have we thought about using security companies also to do the piece about the accident investigations, so our sworn officers wouldn't have to be doing this? Have we thought about looking into that as well as a part of what we're trying to do?
We have not, as far as PFM is concerned. However, I will definitely reach out to PD, and we will work together to look at that option.
Thank you, and I appreciate you wanting to make our government buildings safer.
You're here.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Any other questions, comments?
I move for approval of item G4.
Oh, excuse me, Mayor had a comment.
Just know, Johnny, I gotta say, it is Bryce A. Stewart. It's not me.
Okay. Well, I had it right the first time.
I worked for the man for 20 years.
Well, let me tell you what's in the write-up, Bryce E. Stewart.
I saw that.
Yeah, that's kind of like Bowman Gray Stadium where we play baseball. But anyway, thank you both for the corrections and the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion, second. Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Everybody, please vote. That is approved. We will now go to G5.
Item G5, resolution awarding contract for public art services to Elephant in the Room.
Sandy, could I have Good evening.
You could give us a 2 minutes on this, please, so we'll know what it is.
I'll do that. Good evening, Chairman, Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor Joines, and members of the council.
Good evening.
Let's have a quick presentation. This is for Salem Parkway Public Art. Public Art Commission and the Purchasing Department conducted a nationwide search for two elements of public art along Salem Parkway. This would be the crowning element of the 10-year highway rehabilitation project. There's a budget of $1,050,000 reserved from the Business 40 enhancements from the 2018 bond referendum. The Public Art Commission concentrated on the Church Street Bridge and Peters Creek Parkway interchange as sites that offer high visibility and act as gateways to the city. There were 25 applicants. 4 finalists were interviewed. And the artists were rated on experience and proposal originality. Proposals were also evaluated for potential for safety and engineering issues, and to confirm that NCDOT guidelines will be met, since these will be in the NCDOT right-of-way. You can see images of the artwork that was selected. The Public Art Commission unanimously recommended Elephant in the Room's Invasive Hope proposal at their June meeting. They thought this project was imaginative, iconic, and also safe, since it'll be in the public right-of-way. The Church Street and Peters Creek Parkway elements interact with each other and relate to each other. And there could be elements within along the multi-use path, which is going to be installed in the future. And as long as this is approved, the design will need to be reviewed and approved by NCDOT. I'm happy to answer questions. I also have members of the artist team here to make a presentation on their project if you would like.
Questions or comments? Ms. Adams?
I'm good today. What I wanted to tell you is I think this is a marvelous idea. Again, we've been talking about this ever since 2009, at least, or before when I got on the council, of how important it is when we go to other cities and we see all this iconic art, and we really didn't have any. And I couldn't understand that. And then with Creative Quarters coming under the mix and the renovation of old I-40 to Business 40 to Salem Parkway, I think it's great. I love the renditions of it, but I also want the folks that are doing this, if they can do this as quick. I know $1 million might seem like a lot of money to people, but it's not when you're doing these types of projects. But I would like the city council to start looking at how can we, again, as we've been saying for years, transfer this to the other side of 52 and Business 40 or the Salem Parkway. It would be great if we could do these types of things like Councilmember Scipio or Martin Luther King. It would be great if we could do these things on University Parkway. It would be great if we could do them on Walkertown Road. It'd be great if we could do them on Sprague or any of the streets on Watertown, Councilmember Taylor. We have major thoroughfares as well, and they may not be highway basically by the definition, but they are highways and byways for the folks that live in our communities and the folks that crisscross them every day. So I think it's only fair that staff and everybody start to look towards how do we get one of these at least in every one of those areas of the city that needs something uplifting that's artful and that can make our communities look good, to make people want to come back through.
I agree.
I see the gentleman that stood up. He like, okay, I got this. Okay.
Okay, sir, if you'd like to comment, you could give your name and address to the record, please.
I will bring this up for you, Chad. There you go. Oh, okay, thank you.
I'm Chad Cheek, and I'm the owner of Elephant in the Room. My address is 301 North Main Street. Good evening, Chair Clark, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and Mayor Jones, and members of the City Council. in our proposal, I won't go through the proposal unless you ask me to, but in our proposal, in addition to the pieces of art that you've seen that have been displayed, we have included in our proposal the opportunity to create miniature versions of those pieces that can be distributed throughout the wards, and that is included in the budget in this proposal. So we are preparing to create the opportunity for those to be selected by members of the city council or whoever wants to make that choice, so that we can proliferate the art across the city in ways that can be done. And that will be done in this proposal. Of course, the opportunity to create more pieces of this art and put them in other places also exists as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Chair.
Why do you keep forgetting my name? Chad, thank you. This was an all-star group that the team that you guys had working with each other, or I think we all know them quite well, and
Rock
are
stars.
just really proud of the work that you've done. I think it's really smart to have the dandelion as a method to seed art into all parts of the community. I think that works really well. Having been to Wilson, North Carolina, and seen the Whirligig exhibition,
Yes, sir.
and looking at, I think it's page 27 of the report, where it shows the sort of schematic, engineered drawings, whatever. Will any of these be kinetic, or will they be stationary? It looks like from the construction of this that some of those could move.
No, sir. So they will interact a bit with the wind, but we do not want them to be kinetic so that they wouldn't move at all, because that would be a safety issue.
Being right on the highway might be pose a little challenge. Okay.
Not allowed by NCDOT regulation.
Okay, well, thought I'd ask. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. And excuse me, Ms. Scipio had a comment.
What a wonderful proposal. And I commend the Public Arts Commission that they've chosen someone local to do this. We always have great talent in our city. We don't always step up to the occasion to hire them, but I'm very happy to see Elephant in the room, and specifically you, Chad. Thank you. My question is, what are the materials, what the art's going to be made out of, what medium, and how is it to be maintained, and whether any maintenance is in the contract?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to call on my colleague, Adam Sebastian, to address that specifically from a material perspective. But I do want to say that we are proud to have been chosen. This was a national competition, and so we're very happy that we're a local team that can stand by that.
If you give your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Adam Sebastian, 630 North Liberty Street. And Councilmember Scipio, to answer your question, it's all made out of aluminum and stainless steel. And so those materials were chosen for their weatherability. So the main stem is made out of stainless. That's both for the structural integrity, as well as it is a self-cleaning material. So you think about the giant egg in Chicago, that is a self-cleaning piece of art installation. We chose aluminum because of its lightweight material. This dandelion will be suspended 40 feet in the air, making it very iconic from a standpoint as you come through our town. The aluminum is a brushed aluminum, and that choice was chosen from a maintenance standpoint as well, because it too will get weather washed. And so as the rain kind of goes on it, it kind of keeps its natural look. If we were to powder coat these things, which we are looking at doing at Church Street Bridge, that requires a little bit of maintenance over the years, but those are fully accessible by ladder. But where we're doing the large structure, maintenance was a critical piece, because the last thing we want to see are people up there trying to maintain something that's 40 feet in the air.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, folks. Can I get a motion on this?
I move for approval.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. On G5, everybody please vote on it. Thank you, that is approved. We will now go to G6, if the city clerk will please read that one.
Item G6, ordinance amending the project budget ordinance for the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina for the fiscal year 2021-2022.
Mr. Rout, you'll introduce this to us?
Yes, sir. So the Film Partnership of North Carolina is a 501c economic development organization that's structured to grow the film, television, and digital streaming industry in North Carolina, but also to create a pipeline for a diverse, well-trained, inclusive workforce to support the industry. Back in the fall, they entered into a partnership with the city of Wilmington. The city of Wilmington gave them $400,000 as a portion of their ARPA funds to create a job training program in partnership with the UNC School of the Arts. That program is intended to build the skill set of the local and regional workforce, in particular women and minorities who are largely underrepresented in the industry. So there's a real focus on diversity and inclusion as part of that program. In March, the program has provided training for 8 interns, 4 of which are from historically underserved communities. So the partnership has approached the city with a request of $100,000 to create a cohort in Winston-Salem. And again, the focus would be on diversity and inclusion to help and provide opportunities for those who are underrepresented in the industry. Just a little bit of the details there. It would be paid on-the-job training, paying $15 an hour, including 10 hours of pre-approved overtime, up to $22.50. The interns would work on average about 5 weeks on the job, and they would be placed in regional productions here in the area. 90% of the money would be used for the program, for program costs, for critical mission, DEI recruitment, promotion, job training, and then 10% of the funds would be used for administrative purposes like payroll processing. Just a little bit of interesting facts here. Looking at the industry in North Carolina, I think everybody knows with the new streaming platforms, or not really new anymore, Netflix, that they've actually doubled their budgets for content development, and that they're actually looking to shoot productions outside of California. And one interesting fact is in 2021, North Carolina saw over $410 million in direct spending in the film industry. So the proposal before you today is an amendment to the budget to appropriate $100,000 in economic development project reserves, so local money, to provide this contribution to the Film Partnership in North Carolina for a Winston-Salem cohort. This contribution would be consistent with the City Council's Tier 1 strategic priority to focus on job creation and workforce development, including small businesses, and also focus on travel and tourism. If approved, the city would execute an agreement with the Film Partnership of North Carolina to make sure that they document the results from this cohort so that we can report back to you the outcomes. I'd like to recognize Lauren Vilchik, who is the Assistant Dean for the UNCSA School of Filmmaking. She's here to answer any specific questions you may have about the program.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The mayor of Wilmington called me, I guess, 3 months ago and told me about this program, and I was very excited because we're so proud of the University of North Carolina School of the Arts, School of Filmmaking. But I was concerned that the jobs went down that way. So I said, we need to get those up this way. And so chatted with the city manager and Ben and with the School of the Arts, and this recommendation came forward. I think it's great. I got very excited because of the focus on diversity and inclusion that could come here. And so I think it'll be a great program for us, great opportunities in a growing industry. So, Madam Dean, we look forward to working with this, hopefully, if the City Council approves this.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. McIntosh.
Just because my house was used in a feature film and a couple of commercials, I've bumped into this arena a little bit. But it seems as if North Carolina is clawing back a lot of the film business that we lost to Georgia over the years. And these jobs, when folks get these jobs, these are good paying jobs. These are not $10, $15 an hour jobs. They're real jobs with the promise of bringing a lot of heads and beds to the city. So I'm very much in favor of this.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mundy.
So does this mean that we will definitely get films here? Because I need to know what the economic impact is in Winston-Salem specifically, because it seems to me that with the majority of the films being done in Wilmington primarily, then Charlotte, then Asheville, and Winston-Salem is a fourth, I'm not sure I see the economic impact in my backyard.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Chairman Clark,
You
Mayor
give your name and
Joynes.
address for the record, please.
1533 South Main Street.
Thank you.
Mayor Joynes, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and Mr. Mundy, thank you for your question. I'm currently producing a film as we speak. I just came from the set. I have made movies here for 2 decades, even though 1 decade I was from Los Angeles. So I've long appreciated this region in particular. I've also made movies in Wilmington. So there is a strong attraction and potential in this city. And most of film is gravitates to the south of the state, except for people like me want to stay here. So I think with UNC School of the Arts, which has within a 30-mile radius people who reside in this area, we are the top 10 in the nation. We have real possibility that actually Wilmington is chasing. So we have the possibility to grow. Does that answer your question?
It does. Help me understand 2 things. The difference between what you are doing and what the Piedmont Triad Film Association is doing, and how does the funding differ? It seems to me that we're not putting as much in our own local organization as we are a statewide organization, which again bothers me a bit.
So, Councilmember Mundy, the city's contribution to the Piedmont Triad Film Commission is paid out of our Oxby tax fund, our hotel motel tax receipts, and it's intended to support the ongoing, operation of that organization. Rebecca Clark, the executive director, does help with location scouting and a number of efforts to secure productions here of all kinds, film, television, commercials. So this particular funding would be one-time funding out of our economic development, project reserves for this particular cohort. So this is very focused on job training, workforce development, whereas the funding we provide to the Piedmont Triad Film Commission is ongoing support for basically the operation of that organization.
Okay. I just want to make sure that if we're spending the money to train these folks, that we can get them back in this community and that we have enough film and film-related projects that there are jobs for them here. So that's kind of what I'm thinking of with this investment. I just want to see us have a return on this investment, and since it's statewide, I can't quite see that return as well, knowing the strength in Charlotte and Wilmington versus Winston-Salem. We really need to figure out how to increase our participation in the film industry right here.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Scipio?
Yes, when I initially read this, it seemed like we were just going to help fund the project that was going on in Wilmington. It wasn't really clear that it would be designated exclusively for Winston-Salem, which I would be more in favor of, that we would make this a Winston-Salem initiative. And part of it was because the letter had potential partners in Girls Leadership Academy of Wilmington. There wasn't a local Girls Leadership Academy in the partnership, so I was certainly strongly advise that we would connect with the Boys and Girls Clubs that has a strong leadership program with their kids, and also to work with Piedmont Triad Film Commission. We only give them $35,000 for their operations, and it looks a little strange that we would give $100,000 to a group out of Wilmington. So it looks like we're not taking care of our own, and I would hope that we would consider how do we make this work and have more partnerships locally for this kind of money. We used to have a really strong force of filmmaking here, and I'd love to see that come back also.
Mr. Mayor, and then Ms.
Just very quickly, I think some good points raised, but I would just say that Rebecca Clark was enthusiastically supporting this, because part of her problem in being able to recruit films here is having a cadre of skilled workers, and so Mayor Pro Tem is going to make that same point. So this will allow us to create that infrastructure, if you will, to help us with the recruitment.
Thank
you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Adams?
Just like the mayor said, when Winston-Salem was transitioning to technology and everything in medical, we didn't have the workforce after tobacco that we would have liked to have had. If we had, we'd be further along, such as the research triangle. But in order for a city to find a niche market, job creation, tourism, you have to create that niche from the ground up. And being that we're in between Wilmington and Charlotte or Wilmington and Atlanta, we have an opportunity. When I got on the council, we were getting a lot of filming done here in Winston, but then the economy tanked and some other things happened, recession. I think this is a very good move for us. It's just another marketing thing that we can add to what brings people to our city. I think when we start to talk about training our local, which this is what sold me, you know that, is the workforce development piece, that our young people that grow up here, I think we kind of misbelieve in whatever, if we think everybody gonna wanna stay in Winston. But my thing is that we should be wanting to lift our young people and people up out of poverty to have a better life. And whether that's in Greensboro, DC, I don't care. But at least we'll know we contributed to the quality of life of the residents of Winston-Salem. So just like I told you before, I support this. Councilmember Scipio, we've already discussed that I'm sure staff will be reaching out to any of you that have a nonprofit or a youth group or something, nonprofit that's here in the city, that could partner with them just like you stated. That is not off the table. That is part of the deal. Thank you so much.
Mr. McIntosh.
Just quickly, I just wanted to read from page 2 of Mayor Pro Tem's letter here. We are excited to be partnering with the University of North Carolina School of the Arts to offer our training program in the Winston-Salem region to build a successful pipeline of future workers. And I know from, again, my association with film that folks go where the talent is. And the talent doesn't necessarily follow the film.
Right.
And we have a robust, not only on the manpower side, but the technical side, Winston is very strong. There's a startup right now that is involved in tracking of equipment within the film industry. So, I mean, there's definitely some momentum and some buzz building here.
May I answer
Yes,
one
ma'am.
question? In the letter, we mentioned the girls group. By way of example, we have created scholarships for programs, especially at UNCSA for the summer school program, to give early access and experience, perhaps even to individuals who do not want to go to college but still want access to the film industry. So we are reaching multiple levels of a workforce, from high school to college to graduate school, and specifically locally. We are partners with Wilmington, but I'm Winston-Salem.
Mr. Mundy.
I have a lot of friends who are in IATSE, and it seems like I remember that Winston-Salem is not a union-designated production site. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So these folks that we're going to train will join a union in all likelihood, because we're not looking at acting talent. That's not typically what we're talking about when we talk about economic development. So how do we reconcile that, and how does Winston-Salem become a union-designated site? Because any labeled movie or film is not going to film in Winston-Salem. We can get Independence, but we can't get an MGM, we can't get a Disney, we can't get anyone because they use union labor, and we're a non-union site. So how do we reconcile that?
Multiple ways. We don't have to be a union site to attract film. I work in a budget level and have for a long time that doesn't necessarily require that level. But we have the option to be able to grow the industry that then becomes, based upon the crew level, an option to be a union site. So it's about the depth of the crew. Probably about 2 layers deep is when they start to really pay attention. And we can be close to that 2-layer deep pretty quickly because of UNC School of the Arts.
So it actually is determined on the talent, the production crews and so
Within a
forth
certain-
that you have in an existing area? Okay.
Yes.
I didn't know what the
Yeah.
certification program was, how we would get that certification.
It's based
But
on-
it sounds like we're moving in that direction.
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Do I have a motion from the committee?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Everybody, please vote.
You need to vote.
I did.
Oh, you abstain.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
What did he do? It's apparently not coming.
There we go.
There it is.
There it is.
I did abstain. I've got some specific questions, and Mr. Rowell, I'll get with you. I just want to be absolutely sure that Winston is going to benefit. I think there's some questions there, but I do want to move it forward. Folks, I've got 15 more minutes. I got 2 more items. I'm going to try to get through these. On C7, if the city clerk will please read that one.
Item G7, resolution authorizing subordination of existing permanent financing for Emmanuel Retirement Village.
Thank you. I did get a phone call from the Emmanuel Retirement Village folks. They are, there's a time sensitivity to this. They are getting ready or have started construction, and they will be needing to do some pulls to pay for that construction as it goes. And they'll probably be there in the July timeframe, and we will not be around in July to do anything. So I did ask Mr. Rowell to put it on the agenda for today. So Mr. Rowell, if you could please introduce this to us so everybody understands what's going on.
Yes, sir, Chairman Clark. So in April of 2016, the city authorized a $2.5 million loan using 2014 general obligation bonds to Ujima CDC to develop Emmanuel Retirement Village. At the time, the plan was to build 50 units, market rate rental property for seniors. Due to some resource constraints, they reduced that down to 42 and looked at also postponing a community center that was a part of the original scope for that project. So the construction on those 42 units was completed in August of 2019. So then Ujima had requested a modification to their site plan to be able to replace the community center with one additional duplex unit, which would enable them to actually add 10 more units of housing for the project, so going from 42 to 52 units. And at that time, the city council did approve the modification to delete the community center from the requirement and to add the duplex. So since that time, they are ready and actually have started construction on those 5 duplexes and are now trying to finalize the financing for that, almost $1.5 million in new financing through First National Bank of Pennsylvania. So in order for that loan to be finalized, they are requesting that the city subordinate its loan to the new financing. So the item before you today is a resolution approving that subordination contingent on the debt being supported by the appraised value for the property. And Hobart Jones is the Vice President of Ujima CDC, and Coretta Bigelow are here if you have any specific questions about the project.
Mr. Rowell, isn't it common for us to subordinate on construction projects for housing?
I believe we are.
Very common. Ms. Bigelow or Mr. Jones, either one of y'all want to make a comment? You can certainly come up. You don't have to, but come on up, come on up. Give your name and address for the record, please.
Okay, my name is Coretta Bigelow. We're at 1605 Village Meadow Circle in Winston-Salem, 27101. And good afternoon, Chair Clark and Mayor Jones and Pro Tem Adams and all the rest of the council members. And we thank y'all for entertaining
You might want
this
to stand a little
request.
closer to the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We thank y'all for entertaining this request. And currently, with the 42 units, we are basically 100% occupied, and we have a waiting list for the other 10 units that we are building.
Thank you. Ms. Scipio, I think this is your ward.
Yes, sir.
Would you like to make any comments?
Of course.
You have the floor.
One of the joys of the East Ward is this project. It
was developed by the CDC from Emmanuel Baptist Church, a church that had a great vision. And they put those beautiful duplexes there that have garages. And you look at it and you say, oh, not in this neighborhood. It's on beautiful Barbara Jane Avenue, down the street from where I live. But it has actually brought so much value to the neighborhood. And we've discovered that people who are seniors want to have a 2-bedroom apartment with a garage on our side of town. And it's been a wonderful addition and a great experiment. And I really hope that at some point in the future, the church will purchase the land across the street and build more, because there's certainly a demand for it. And so I am certainly in favor of the committee taking this action.
Mr. McIntosh?
This is a great example of missing middle housing and how it can complement a community. I'm very much in favor of this. We're getting 10 additional housing units, and all we're doing is moving our risk factor one behind the bank, who's going to do their due diligence and their homework. So this is just a home run, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Ms. Adams?
Thank you, Chair Clark. Thank you, Ms. Bigelow and Mr. Jones. As Councilman McIntosh said, this is a prime example of middle income housing. But this is a prime example when public-private partnerships and government can step aside and stop thinking that every housing initiative is going to fit in a nice box with a big bow. As you know, the conversations and meetings we had to get this through council, committee, and council, but I know that we all believed in the end we had made a great decision. And when I spoke to you all and you told me that there was a waiting list, and you told me that you were full, and you told me how COVID shifted not just your brand, but shifted the whole country as to how you think, do we really need a community center? And my suggestion was build some houses. And we thank you for that, because you are now a partnership forever, basically, with the city. And we're going to always use you all as a standard bearer for others that want to do projects with us. But senior housing, much needed, because the boomers they need somewhere to stay. And I thank you all so much, and I thank Emmanuel Baptist Church, and I move for approval of this
Do I
motion.
have a second?
Second.
Motion to second. All in favor, please vote, or against, whatever. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Bigelow and Mr. Jones, thank y'all for coming today. And for what it's worth, I knew y'all were going to do a great job, 3, 4, 5 years ago, whatever it was when y'all were here. And keep going. I'm assuming this was approved. Did it flash up?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Taylor, I'm going to hopefully get finished on time. We got one more item. The city clerk will please read G8.
Item G8, information on sale of certain city-owned land by private sale to Pace of the Triad.
This is just for information today, and we'll do something on it later. Mr. Rao, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman Clark. First of all, Sandra, can I get the map pulled
Your
up?
map would be very helpful.
So the item before you today, this is an information item. Councilmember Burke has been very focused on trying to develop this particular portion of the Northeast Ward. They're bounded by Motor Road and Old Walkertown Road. The city currently owns 13 acres, or is in control, I would say, of 13 acres. You can see there the left parcel. We're in the process of reacquiring the adjacent 18 acres to basically compile a 31-acre site. ultimately, the goal is to try to get a grocery store and some housing developed on the site. But in the meantime, an organization called PACE of the Triad, PACE stands for Program of All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly, has expressed interest in building a facility on the 13 acres that the city currently has control of. This organization currently has a facility in Greensboro that serves Guilford and Rockingham counties. Just to give you an example of the kind of services they provide, it includes physician and nursing services, physical, occupational, and speech therapies, personal care, activities and exercise, nutritional counseling, and social work support, and also transportation services. And Councilmember Burke and city staff had an opportunity to tour their Greensboro location. We're very impressed. But they are very interested in developing a new facility on approximately 5 acres of that 13 acres that I mentioned. And so the item before you today is just to let you know that we are entering into negotiations with them to sell the 5 acres to them. This is authorized under 160A-279 of the general statutes because they would be providing a public purpose to the community. We are in the process of developing a site plan for the whole 31 acres, and so this part will be part of that. Let me just show you, give you an indication of that. So let's see. So you can see there, that's right now just kind of what we call a conceptual site plan for what they would build there off of Motor Road, but using about 5 acres of land for that. Like I said, we're in the process of negotiating with them, so we will bring back an action item, in August for your consideration and approval to sell the land to them. They are in the process of ensuring that they have certifications in place with the federal and state governments. I want to see if Ursula Robinson, okay. Yeah, Ursula Robinson, who's the executive director of PACE, is here, and she is available to answer any questions that you have about the PACE organization. Ms. Robinson?
While she's coming up, Ms. Burke, would you make any comments you'd like?
Thank you, Chair Clark, and thank you, Mr. Rao, for that presentation. I just want you to know that we were very excited when PACE showed an interest in moving to the Triad, specifically to the location that they have identified. We believe that this would be a great enhancement for our city as well as the Northeast Ward. You all know that there are so many neighborhoods in that area, and as Mayor Pro Tem said a little while ago, many of our residents are aging on up and out, so this would be very beneficial. Thank you.
Ma'am, would you like to make some comments? And if you'll please give your name and address for the record before you start.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem, Chair, and other council members. Again, my name is Ursula Robinson. My address is 3207 Alswich Road, Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm indeed honored to be here in front of you. The state of North Carolina, specifically the Division of Health Benefits, awarded our organization the opportunity to expand. We clearly identified that Winston-Salem was the only metropolitan left in North Carolina without a PACE program. And very much like the rest of the state, you are aging. And as a result of that, you need innovative services like the PACE program to help care for these baby boomers. So Mr. Rao has already talked about some of the services that we have to offer, so I won't repeat them, but I will say we're very excited about that ward area for Motor Road, and I'm here to answer any questions that I can for you.
Any questions or comments? This is for information only today. Thank you very much, Ms. Rao. I would recommend that you continue with this, both the immediate project as well as the acquisition of the other 18 acres. And Ms. Burke, I kind of look to you for direction on this when we get there.
Thank you so much, Chair Clark.
All right.
And thank you, Ms. Robinson.
Thank you for coming over. That concludes our agenda, and just in time, I got a minute left. The public safety will start at?
We'll start at 6:10.
6:10. Thank everybody for being here today. We are adjourned.
We actually stole.